Hello guys, welcome back to today's stream of this time CBL. And today, tomorrow we're gonna have like the grand finals of this time CBL. So today is kind of like the final of the lower bracket, and the winner of today is gonna be promoted and have a huge fight with the like 7 times champion CNC again. So yeah, guys, welcome back to today's show, and we have like our always amazing commentator, Josh. Hey, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, so Josh will be joining us and to present you the best commentating of CBL as always. So for today's, we have teams like BPJT versus YYY. Both two teams, the Asia division.
And both two of the people that have really earned these positions as well, as we've seen stellar performances out of BPJT as well as YYY.
Yeah.
Only really dropping matches against CNC, which who can really blame them? BPJT even taking a game away from the reigning champs.
Yeah. I believe the performance from BPJT when they have the first fight against the CNC several days ago was really just breathtaking in the Harbor City. Just a totally different new strategy, and caught CNC of nowhere. And also YYY, they also kind of got knocked by the CNC, so they came to the lower bracket now and have a fight against the BPJT. So both two teams will fight over the chance to have a huge fight with CNC again. So yeah, let's see the map and the unit band pick stage from both two teams. Yeah, so for both two teams, they picked the Harbor City as the attacking map. And at the final of the lower bracket, we're gonna have like a best of 5 in today's game. So the first team win the score of like 3 points will be promoted to the next stage. So today is kind of crucial. Who's gonna have the chance to be the champion of this time CBL? Every choice they make on the maps and the units are really crucial for them. So yeah, let's see the unit band pick from both two teams. Josh, can you see the which units are being banned at this moment?
Yeah, I can see both people's banned maps as well as their units. As we see coming out of YYY, they banned 3 important units here on this map. They banned the Martellatore, they banned the Zerkian Militia, and the Shenji Grenadiers.
Yeah.
Looks like they're really trying to shut down those carry units, with the only one being left up being the Flamethrowers or the Siphonaris, which we see them quite often bring, so it's no surprise they've left them unbanned. As well as allowing the Halberdier Sergeants to be guaranteed for themselves. We've seen CNC quite often allow the SAR, so making sure they have that counter available to them does seem really important on their side.
Yeah. And YYY, all the 3 units they banned are really important in, I can say that all maps. Shenji Grenadiers, the Kalian Militia, and the Gunners, they are always like the best choices of the ranged units. And especially in the Harbor City, as both the defender and the attacker, the gunners can be hugely important in these maps. So yeah, let's see what they are planning on in the Harbor City.
Yeah, I mean, allowing yourself to have those options shut out from the enemy team even means that potentially you might see a single siege tower push. If we see a single siege tower mount, that usually spells doom for the enemy team trying to push up that siege tower. But now that the only answer is going to be those flamethrowers, if they're able to shut down, usually only one of those units abroad, if they're able to shut down that one unit, they can actually make the single siege tower push work. But as we see from BBJT, they've got very different priorities. It seems like they really have been focusing on what YYY has been playing, as they banned away the Chevaliers, which have been a really relevant unit that we've seen so far, especially on this map for once. They banned out the Shield Maidens, which are pretty emblematic of YYY's playstyle. Really fast, hard-hitting, quick infantry unit. and we've seen them utilized fantastically on the side of YOI, so no surprises on that ban. And we see the Samachi and Stalwarts, the loyal guards, being banned out as well, as they're a staple of anybody's forces at the moment, as they're quite strong for themselves, and they form as both a frontline and a DPS. So taking them out of the equation means that those infantry fights will be a lot hairier.
This stage, both two teams only lost one game to CNC and the over, and they're also the ING, previous champion team from China's mainland server, and also like why they are like a regroup team. Most of the teams are from like our previous top team, TKT, and also Ace. So I believe they also both two they have like a huge advantage in personal skills and etc. What's your prediction, like winner of this time, the final of lower bracket?
Okay, so my prediction actually is I'm going to go with YOI here. That's where I'm putting my money.
Oh, YOI.
I believe that they're an outstanding team, despite a bit of a shaky performance yesterday. But there's also the factor of the fact you got to count who they were actually versing. They were versing CNC, right?
Yeah.
If they're versing CNC, they're pretty much guaranteed to make it to final.
Yeah.
Regardless of if they won or lost that, right? And you got to really sit back and consider, did YOI hold back a few of their strategies, unlike BBJT, against CNC to try to guarantee that they'd have better luck in the grand finals? We saw BBJT obviously crush CNC in their first attack when they were able to sally out from the defensive position. But ever since then, the Chevaliers are never ever going to get through against CNC. So I wonder if YOI put themselves in the situation where, like, you know what? We're going to just a normal fight. We're not going to pull all of our rabbits out of the hat, so to speak. And I think they really are the team to beat when it comes to this tournament, if we're not counting CNC. How about yourself? What are you predicting here?
Well, I think today's fight is going to be tied up and really intense. Well, I can't really gonna because I can't really make up my mind. Both two teams are good, team personal skills and their all of them have think of brand new strategies, and they can also play in a really stable way. So kind of really hard to tell at this moment.
Yeah, I can't help but agree, honestly. I think this will be an incredibly close competition. I think these are very, very firmly, right now, almost tied for second place of what we would assume if we're factoring in CNCs automatically winning, right? These guys would be very close together. BBJT, I don't think has the individual skill level that YOI has, but I think they have a little bit more of that team cohesion. They have a little bit more experience playing together as one cohesive unit. Whereas YOI is a bit more fresh, but also very, very impressive when it comes to that.
Yeah. So guys, seems like the audio is going wrong. I don't know if you find the sound quality is not good. You can leave in the comment and we will check. Yeah. So. Oh, the game starts on Harbor City now, so YOI will be the attacker first, and let's see the lineup from both two teams.
Yeah, and a really traditional draft essentially coming out of here. Both teams, as we see one flamethrower on the side of the defenders, two on the side of the attackers. It is important when you're playing this attacker side on this map. If flamethrowers are your in the unit, you need more than one, really. Because when you get stuck in those corridors later on, point really need them there, as well as on top of the walls. If you're going to be versing flamethrowers, the number one thing to do is to just either dive them or use your own more effectively. So really important they also have two there for their options. Apart from that, it's pretty standard. It's a lot of the 4-4-3 that we see in a ton of this tournament. And a few 4-4-4s, even with the triple purples coming out, using those cheaper purple units so that they can afford to bring 3 units of good high tier.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and then you can see the hero choices are, actually also quite interesting from both the teams. As the defender team, I can see why the BBJT did bring a lot of mass kit at this moment, because when you are at the war, you can just do some extra, make some contribution to the team already when the battle not even start yet.
Yeah, and when you see this coming out from the defender side, usually the option is, hey, we should just go through that side gate, try to capture the back supply at A. It kind of neutralizes a lot of that pressure that the muskets really have when you try to contest those walls, because especially when we talk about that single siege tower method being viable, when you see that many muskets, it's just plain not. You don't want to be eating 8 bombs to the face when you're trying to send a unit straight up there, so capturing that back supply, pressuring them off the point with mortar placements and shelling the units seems to be the best course of action for them. Well, let's see what YY opts into doing here.
You can see a lot of attackers, YY players starting to climb in the wall, do some extra distraction to the defender already. Several mortars.
Yeah. And this is something you can take away for your ranked games if you're a newer player, as well as even an experienced player that doesn't know about this. Just sending somebody up the ladders makes sure that the defenders can't completely focus their efforts on killing the siege towers. It also allows you to aim these traps, as you see from the right-hand side. You can see the longsword player from YY. He's climbed up just solely to get that trap off into the culverin positions.
Yeah.
To try to guarantee those siege towers make it a little bit further. And YY with some smart play.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually shooting their own siege tower. We've seen it now a few times in these later stages from the high-performing teams of the bracket. They oftentimes shoot their own siege towers when they get low. They deny the amount of time being stalled out that the defenders actually want, and to make sure that you're getting into a position where you can really punish the defenders for that early artillery placement. But BBJT are also doing quite well for themselves. They got down all 3 of those siege towers with only 3 artillery placed.
So far, pretty regular start for both two teams.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, you see on the side of BBJT, I don't think there's a single cav unit out at the moment, which could be a really, really bad factor for them if YY does choose to just rush through these gates, either side or middle gate. Not having those cav already out, maybe 1 or 2 just hidden away, will make sure that they're not actually able to push them out if they're contesting that supply, and it makes it recapturing it rather, quite difficult on the defense side. Speaking on the unit choices we see here coming out of YY as well, we see they're opting into a pretty heavy infantry fight. It seems like that's what they're angling at least for at the moment. They've got a lot of those shield units already set up, which kind of indicates they're not going to want to take that ground fight just yet, unless they do going to swap out, because obviously shields on the ground struggle pretty heavily into the cavalry, whereas when they're up inside the walls, they're very, very hard to deal with if they're supported well, which we see not shield maintenance this time. We see halberds coming up from behind them. They do a ton of DPS once they're set up. And we also see the flames that will probably be pulled out, exchanged for those farmer units once the siege towers actually make it to these walls. As we see the middle siege towers actually about to mount already.
Yeah. It's really close, and it seems like BBJT, they are getting ready for the mounted siege towers.
I'm almost surprised that we didn't see from BBJT them just allow this first middle siege tower to go up. They're planning to let the second one through. Feels like they could have saved a few of their artillery shots early on.
Yeah.
But either way, it's not really a big deal. They know that YY can't actually do anything with a single siege tower into this many musket players, because it's just a tragedy if you try to go up there. You're going to have 8 caltrops dropped on your head, 8 bombs, you're just not going to be able to do anything. So they know that they can allow this one to go up.
Yep.
Just maybe should have been let up the first time rather than the second cycle. Now, I can't say I actually like this artillery placement, though, we see coming out of YY. They're setting up artillery places that would usually be really useful. But in the face of this many muskets, you would probably see it just get bombed down into oblivion. So we see that one ballista down there. Luckily, the mortar was cancelled, which is a good call from him.
Yeah, and you can see YYY players, there seems to be, do some testing around the main gate, trying to, maybe draw some, forces from the defender side and, to seek opportunities to make a breakthrough.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is a bait, but they could also just push on straight through here. We see, like I mentioned before, there's not a whole lot of actual DPS coming out of the side of BBJT. There's no cap being hidden anywhere, unless they've been pulled up and missed that, which it doesn't seem there is. The only units they've really got to worry about is those branching guards are quite effective if they're protected well. We see the unit of flamers, but they are brought up pretty close, and YY are notorious for pushing straight into a unit, as we see this Pike looking for those flamers now. Smart play from him, just to focus head in there and see if he can get them. Unfortunately, not getting into the units that he really did desire out of that push. But we see a huge push coming up this middle siege tower now, and because the flamers weren't there, they're going to get up there pretty uncontested. Oh, and I love this play coming out from YY. Really smart for them to actually bait those flamers back, and now you're going to see a lot of damage being done with these traps. 15 people are going to be funneling into them. It's a huge amount for them done.
For more reinforcement coming from the defender side, more down, and Imperial Guards just make great contribution and deal huge losses, damage to the YYY.
Yeah, and as we see here, Levi is known for his flamethrower play, and he's done an excellent job here. He protected his flamers, didn't actually make them shoot too much early. Saved a lot of those shots until all the enemies were weakened, and now you can see YY absolutely slaughtering BBJT as they chase them down onto the supply.
Yeah.
Really well played from them. The only thing they got to worry about now is these hussars that are coming around the corner.
Yeah, really quick rotation by YYY teams, just to keep chasing the defender and down to the supply point.
Those hussars, I can't help but feel like they just wasted their charge. They charged into about half a unit there, which was already going to get wiped by the halberds, and now they're going to get caught out here without a charge, as we all know hussars have quite a long cooldown. That kind of just allows YY to push straight into the supply, it feels like.
Okay, so for BPJT, they need, to quickly retreat from this, kick the YYY outside of the city. So for now, they did quite a good job, but also YYY, they seem to already gain themselves a little, upper advantage here, because they have already captured 1 point, and they can just take their steps and, setting some artilleries on the wall and, make their next moves.
Yeah, and really smart play came out from YY, understanding that they lost their opportunity to take that supply early. They've just gone up to these walls now. Really good treb as well, as finds the lone mortar that set up their defender, and they're going to pressure them off the point now. The only question for YOI is, are they going to overcommit to this artillery, or are they going to place just enough to create the space that they really do need? And it seems like right now they're not overcommitting. Still with 20 artillery left to be placed. It's a great position to be in. Something else that I like as well here is there are some fantastic ballista placements. Look at this for your ranked camps if you want a good tip as well. You can see one going up on each side of the staircases. What that allows you to do is get that crossfire when nothing's really safe from the ballista fire. As we mentioned many times before, ballistas are not only for hero killing. Every single shot from them, if it goes through a unit, will kill 2 to 3 gold units, right?
Yep.
So that really does add up and ramp up when you use all that ammunition just sniping. As you see, the Hussars and the Northern Lancers are being focused really hard right now. Can't help but feel like BBJT are going to have to give up this position pretty soon, as we still see 12 artillery to come from the side of the attackers. They're going to suffer a lot of damage if they sit in this choke and continue to get shelled, as these mortars are coming in like trebuchet shots incredibly accurately.
Okay, so for now, it seems like worldwide they are, all gathered on the main gate, and let's see when. Okay, they just wave into the supply point, and it seems like BPJT they are kind of retreating to the left supply point on the left side. Both two sides do a lot of testing and bait on the points they want to go for.
And as you can see by the bodies littered on the floor, they've already done quite a bit of damage with this artillery. But a really smart piece of play here, as you can see, actually, right in the center, in front of that main gate, you can see a mortar set up in a pretty advanced position. The reason why it's placed there, despite the fact it's in the open, is they've got the cover of the blisters up on those hills. They've even got a blister set up behind it. What that allows you to do is slowly creep your artillery line up, so you don't fall victim to the issue of over-deploying your artillery while the enemy just essentially retreats and says, hey, listen, us getting rid of 10 of your artillery for taking pretty minimal losses is a win for us. All we have to do now is retreat. Well, now you can't, because they're setting up staggered artillery time after time after again, and they're going to be able to continue shelling any kind of point. See here, 2 more are going down in the center. Incredibly smart artillery play coming out from the side of YOY. This isn't something we see a lot of teams do. And while we're making a huge shift over here to the supply point, now what they're going to try to do is, you're going to see it, they're going to set up, they're not actually going to push super heavily, and they're going to use this position to treb while they cover those flamers that are now absolutely decimating the left-hand side of their flank. They're going to be able to pretty much eviscerate every single thing there, as BBJT only brought one, so they don't really have an answer to this second flamethrower unit.
Yeah. But the last chamber shot, hit the position it hit is not really, good, doing a lot of family damage over there.
Yep. And as you see here, a lot of the units of YOI are being used here just to stall the BBJT reinforcements. Really great ideas. We see a huge flank coming out from this unit here. It's going to be able to clean up all the back line. These dagger X's are just going to patrol straight through. They're going to do an absolute ton of damage. Really good calculate coming up from the side of YOY.
Yeah. And also they now, after several waves of attack, they have gained themselves a huge advantage in the unit numbers. And you can see a lot of them are still like 52 of them are high tier units there. So for the defender side, they must be really cautious and defend the final base. So we can see that one pike hero already start to capturing the final base, but seems like most of their defenders got lagged by the attacker team.
Yeah, you can see here, YOI have actually identified they don't actually need to supply that much anymore. They've already pulled out their fresh units. They're just going to set up 2 units there to defend it in a brave shot or 2. But the main point they're going to try to contest is this back entrance that they know BBJT is forced into.
Really smart move by YOY. They just draw all the forces from the defender side at the supply point, and set some people to start to capture the point at the meantime. So really.
Yep.
Amazing fight by YOY. Congrats the attacker. They win the first round. So let's see the MVP. It's like a Levi. Got the MVP from YOY side and got 2 kills, 1 death, and 9 assists, and killed 91 troops in the game.
Yep, and I think you'll see Levi pop up quite often. Unfortunately, not this time on his trademark longsword that he usually runs, so we see him get the MVP slots on. But he is a dedicated carry unit player for the side of Huawei. He oftentimes brings in those flamethrowers for the team. And like I mentioned during the fight, he's well known as one of the best flamethrower players, and it showed here as he was able to really shut down a lot of the momentum that BBJT was trying to capture themselves with just well-positioned flamethrower shots. Meanwhile, on the side of BBJT's MVP, we actually see a pretty decent performance out of him as well, with 5 kills, 2 deaths, 4 assists, 67 unit kills, and almost 700 leadership total, which is really good for a losing side, especially when that loss, to be quite frank, was a little bit brutal. We see a lot of the people there not even getting halfway there to the leadership threshold because it was quite a well-fought battle from YY, and BBJT were a little bit slow to react to what the pressure was putting on them. But you see there, he actually did take out 3 of those flames, which is the most important unit on the field to really take out. So he's done well for himself in that alone. And on top of that, just kind of a scattered amount of troops from the purple and blues as well, which is no meaningless feat for them.
Yeah. So first round goes to YY. A lot of team members from YY were like the top 2 teams in previous CBLs, so you can really see their a great performance in the last round of match. And for BPJT, the teams, most of the team members joining from the China's mainland server, they also have a huge skill. They also have like a great performance in the game. So for the next round in Harbor City again, BPJT is gonna be the attacker in the next map, and let's see, what their unit of choice will be at the attacker side.
Yeah, a really important question for them is how are they going to answer the pressure that YY was able to bring when it comes to those 2 flamethrowers. They're going to try to match those numbers or even exceed. Because that was a huge factor for them there. Once they were able to neutralize the 1 flamethrower of BBJT, because there was no Zerkians, there was no Falconetti or Martellatore, and there was no Shenjis, really nothing to shut it down except for a well-placed cav charge, and they were hidden away from the cav, so not really much of an answer left for them.
Yeah, you can see from the last match, because a lot of good ranged units have been banned, so we can see a lot of infantry fights, really melee and closed fights in supply points and also around the point A. So it's more like how team members control their units what really matters, especially in such a melee fights.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely no reason at all to count BBJT out of this either. They're an absolutely stellar team. I think they can pull something out here that we wouldn't expect at all. We've seen it more than once from them. And I think they're going to really take the fight back to YOA in this series.
Yeah.
After seeing this first game coming out of YY versus BBJT, is there anything you just kind of expect coming out of this next matchup here? Do you think BBJT are going to try for something like a more cav-heavy approach, knowing that they're going to be forced into those land battles against really good artillery placements? Maybe mobility's their option, or what do you kind of expect coming into this?
When we comes to, when our audience and also us watching the CBL, we always expect really new strategies and something unexpected to show experience. But in the last round, we see more like conventional and traditional melee fights in Harbor City, and I think for both two teams, they will play today's match in a really cautious way. So I say, as the attack side, BBJT, they will choose the regular way at the strategy? Because,
Yeah, I
you
wouldn't
know,
be surprised at all.
yeah. You know, in Harbor City, it's always like in the beginning of the match, it's always about pushing forward the siege towers. The attacker needs to make sure that the siege towers, especially if they can make the tower mounted more than one, they will get like extra bonus in gaining the advantage in attacking. So I hope that BPJT they can, you know, gaining themselves some advantage in the early of the game by pushing forward the siege tower.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it against the side of CNC with YOS performance. They kind of struggled to get those siege towers down early. Barring that was a different map, obviously. That was on the Hidden City map. But maybe they can try to look to exploit in some way, shape, or manner. Maybe they put on those golden farmer units, push those siege towers to the wall, and try to leverage advantage from there. Where obviously they can use a lot of the trebs up on top of that wall. It's a fantastic position. In fact, the best position for them usually when you come to this map. As well as them just having the artillery advantage. Maybe we'll see them utilize them in the same way that YOI was, where they placed just a few. They force you off of that point and then keep chasing you incrementally, bit by placing more artillery staggered. So you're never really safe from those.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe the second round between BPJT and YOY is about to start soon.
Should be coming any second.
Yep. And for BPJT, they must like win this round, otherwise they will be like 0-2, and they need to like chase back all 3 points to get promoted and to fight with CNC again.
Now, a unit that could even be possible here for the side of BBJT, knowing that a lot of those ranged carry units are gone.
Yeah.
The Houndsmen are actually quite effective here against what's left. The only unit that they really struggle to break through is obviously going to be those Mamillions, the Tower Shield Infantry. Apart from that, they're going to have a pretty easy time just doing the maximum amount of DPS that they can. We've seen them brought a couple of times here, not super commonly, but they are an option that's available to them. As we see here, as expected as well, we see 2 of those flamethrowers being brought for the attacker's side yet again. It's really important. But on the defender's side here from YY, we see it mirrored. We see another 2, so it's really going to come down to who has the best micro for that unit, who's able to use that arc of fire. If anybody doesn't know at home, essentially there is a way that you can shoot about 25 degrees up from what you would usually aim the flamethrowers, and it allows them to get bonus range on their attacks, which means the huge difference on the amount of DPS they can do. Not only that, you can even shoot them over the top of infantry lines to try to purposefully snipe the enemy flamers. There's a lot of options.
Yep.
So that is a really impressive unit with what you can do with it if you're good with it, and it really does come down to who's going to be the best at this game, it feels like.
So Harbor City again, and now BPJT, they are the attacking side, and YYY, they will be defending the internal city of Harbor City.
See, from the side of YY, we haven't seen this previous days, but a lot of their mediums have actually swapped over to the musket. Obviously, I didn't find that it's quite a strong strategy. You have a few muskets on this team, on this map, rather, specifically. Kind of allows you to shut down the close mortar placements, allows you to shut down those early pushes, those caltrops and those bombs.
Yeah.
Really, really valuable unit, and they have identified that that's essentially one of the things they really do need to pull out the victory here. A little something of note as well, you see here on the right-hand siege tower, they're actually missing one of those Martellatore units, the siege tower pushes. They're actually opting to just push that on with the claymores, which I feel like might be a little bit of a mistake. As you can see, there's two more of those essentially engineer units on the field, just not able to push yet. And they're missing out on that 30% HP buff to the towers, which is quite considerable.
Yep.
And I mean, a risky mortar here could pay off for the side of BBJT. We see it set up on the right-hand side of the attacker's map. He's essentially trying to shut down that culver, and it's a race against time right now if he can shoot it down before the muskets get in position to really shut down that mortar. But he's found the first shot. Looks like he might actually find the second one as well. I really isn't responding to that mortar being placed down. Instead, opting into trying to kill this siege artillery, pushing infantry. Kind of farming those white units rather than shutting down the mortar, which allowed them to get rid of that early culverin. And as we know, the attackers get 2 artillery for every one of the defenders' artillery, so it's a really good trade for the side of BBJT. Good way to start off the battle.
Yeah, and one good thing for BPJT, they have made 1 siege tower mounted in the first wave of pushing, so it's really a good news for them. But for YYY, it seems they're like always think things are really under control and get ready for the next stage of the defend.
Yeah, and it's almost I was almost going to make a comment about the fact that I even said last battle that maybe it's a better opportunity to just let that first siege tower melt, but it seems like YY actually did invest in killing it. They just weren't able to. As you can see, it's quite lit up, obviously very, very close to death, but wasn't taken down in the end, so actually wasted artillery shots going into that tower.
Yeah.
Something really concerning actually here. I don't know if I'd call it concerning actually. I would almost guess that YY is actually just going to give up A here. As you can see on that left hand side, that siege tower is completely full HP. It looks like they're going to opt into just giving A. Either that, or they're going to try to lull them into thinking they're giving A and try to punish them with those flamers, since they do have 2 of them available to them. But an interesting strategy. I don't think we've seen people allow 2 siege towers to go up intentionally. Maybe just choosing, hey, listen, we already know that there's a lot of artillery placed by BBJT, with them almost using half their artillery already. Maybe that was the smarter call here.
Yeah, maybe.
And I love this play coming out of this dual blade as well. We can see him on the back left supply for the defender's side. It's just out there harassing that poleaxe, making sure the poleaxe has to babysit him essentially. It is important that he avoids this spear. As we all know, spear is a bit of a trouble when it's on the back of a horse, especially when it's chasing down a light armor target. But he's doing essentially the best he can to just draw some attention away, stagger some time. Even if he ends up dying here, the time that he's buying is really precious if they choose to hold on to A point. As he has just duped the spear and done well over. The spear's going to have a harder time getting back on top of him here, as he's just going to try to chase him around as much as he can.
Yeah, just like you said, the defender YYY, they just retreat from the point A.
It does make the position for that dual blade a little bit tricky. He's going to be chased down by that spear. When that spear does get his ability up, his E ability on the horseback, to really chase him down, he might be in a little bit of trouble here. But he does have a unit of hussars to back him up here on this back supply, so maybe they're being held in reserve to try to bait him through the gates. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that come through. Okay. And on the side of YYY here, I'd love to see them essentially feint that they're going to hold this. Take a couple of those artillery shells. We can see a lot of artillery being essentially baited by the attack side of BBJT. And if they can bait out a few more of those artillery to be placed and then just move back, that's essentially a big win for them. They can just make sure that BBJT have wasted a lot of their artillery already, as they're down to 15. Actually, YY have opted into taking an artillery kill here. You can see that they've got a couple of those mortars set up really close to that wall, making it hard to counter snipe for the attacker side, and they're going to be trying to kill that artillery. As well as one culverin being placed very close on the left-hand side of that scaffolding. Oh, really smart play here, actually, from YY again. Yesterday, they fell victim to CNC strategy,
Yeah.
where CNC came off the walls and they came into the side gate. So they've learned from their mistake. They've positioned a few scouts here now. Essentially, they know that they're going to be going for a big push here. They're going to be poised up and ready to actually respond to this. So obviously, learning from the mistakes they made yesterday is a really good improvement to see. And now on the side of BBJT, it's really important to see where they place the rest of this artillery now, if they are going to be trying to look for an angle. But they are pretty low on their artillery count. They're only down to 13 left, and they're not really making a lot of ground just yet.
So
Risky
BBJT
culverin going down. So
Yeah.
wide there as well. You see BBJT are making a full swap over to the other side. They got to be really careful not to have their units cut off here, though, as that is the strategy that YY often implements here. But actually, a really good time to turn around for BBJT is they're opting into taking this fight. Now YY are the ones out of position, as a lot of their team wasn't ready to bounce just yet. The really important fight here for both sides, actually, is you see the number of units is almost incredibly even.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really, really decisive fight for how the rest of the battle goes, as we see YY are a little bit out of position. But this counter cav is coming in through huge force.
Yeah. You know, the Navas from the defender side was doing huge damage to the BPJT, but you know the cavalry is just doing a huge contribution just to one charge, and it really nailed down those ranged units from behind.
But that really was a bit of a win for the attacker side here of BBJT. They did manage to secure a bit of an advantage. They did also manage to clean up the rest of those Narfans as their cav came through. Really, really important for them to knock out that unit there, as that was even Levi's flamethrowers as well. So really good snipe from BBJT side, as they're going to posture up and look for another push here. God, I'm not sure about you, but I really cannot pick how this fight's going to go from here. It's incredibly even at this point. We see 5 artillery to 11. That's super even. Only 7 trebs being left is pretty fair for both sides. It does seem we unfortunately had a disconnect from the side of YOY. I believe we saw that yesterday as well. But they should be able to muster up and still put up a good fight here, as it is really, really even. And the most important unit on the battlefield here from the defender side is Billy's flamethrowers that are being caught around onto this flank now, trying to defend this supply side push.
So for the attacker, they just aiming at the final base. They are not really caring about the supply point. They just all go for the final base, but it seems like not so many defenders at the front of the battlefield.
Yeah, something interesting here is a watch was actually placed. I think that's the first watch of the entire tournament I've seen. Can't help but feel like that might have been a bit of a mistake. Maybe he just forgot to swap his artillery there. But interesting to see that brought out as we see a massive fight breaking out over this central position for the home base.
Ooh, and also another nice charge from the BPJT side. Overwhelmed the ground with the cavalries and the abilities.
Yep. And really well played from BBJT as well. Not only their cavalry got in there, but they sent a lot of their heroes just to dive those flamethrowers, identifying they're the main threat left on the battlefield. And they've essentially shut them out of the game almost instantly. They did very little to no damage there. And it feels like this game is going down to BBJT as they've done a really good job. Even on that push, they've managed to guard their back, knowing the style of war. They protected it from that cav flank that usually comes later on.
Yeah, really tied up from both two teams, really intense games from both two teams. So let's see the winner of the second round. It's BPJT, and the MVP is Xiao Niu. Got 1 kill, 1 death, and 4 assists, and killed 70 troops in the game. Well, there are not like many huge team fights and units fights in this round of game, and you can see that BPJT, they still got like over 1,000 units in the game, and I think they can actually play this round in a really smart way. They just in the second wave of attack, they just save a lot of forces and nail down and keep pushing forward to the final base. So for the MVP from YY side, got 1 death and 4 assists, and got 61 troops in the game.
And you can see that he's done well for himself as well. We always talk about the carry units being taken out, and he's taken out half a unit flamethrowers for himself. He took out quite a lot of Medal, even a fair amount of stars. Really important units to take down. Unfortunately, obviously, for his side, he went down there, and positively, for the side of BBJT, they had the comeback victory there, like bringing it back to a 1-1 series. It's going to be interesting to see what they opt in for their next map. As it seems like on the attacker side, for both sides respectively, it felt like the first game, YY really did outplay BBJT quite a bit with the way that they were pushing forward very slowly, not really similar to their playstyle at all. But when they were on the defense, BBJT actually had a really smart fake there. They faked they were going to that initial supply, and then when they knew that a few members of YY were a little bit too eager, they turned around, forced a fight on them, killed them, then mopped up the rest of the team fight. So really well played to both teams in their retrospective attacks.
Yeah, just like I said, really good game plays by both two teams, and the score is like 1-1 now, and it's like really tight. And for today's like best of 5, like both two teams still got like 2 points to win, and we will like have another ban pick and of maps and the units, and I think we will like have a 10 minutes break, so that both two teams, they will like get really ready for the following battles. Maybe we're gonna see another field, just like Josh always said. Maybe field is battle is coming on the way. So yeah, guys, just like take a 10 minutes break, and we will see you in 10 minutes. Thank you, Josh.
See you guys soon.
See you. Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to today's stream of the final of lower bracket. So today we will have like the round 3 between BPJT and the YYY. You know, the score is kind of really close. It's 1-1 now, and Josh will be joining us with today's commentating. So really appreciate Josh's help, and I believe that.
Happy to be.
Yep. And you know, BPJT and YYY, they have like 2 matches in the map Harbor City already, and both 2 teams, they have won 1 score as the attacking team. So as our audience might have seen in the stream, that both 2 teams, they picked the Harbor City again in the following 2 matches. So yes, YYY, they will be the attacking team first in the Harbor City again. So yeah, we can quickly check the unit and the map ban pick for the following 2 matches.
Yeah, and the most important notes here really is what they've allowed through. We see on the side of BBJT, they said, hey, listen, we want our Shenjis for the next match.
Yeah.
They guaranteed that they made it through. I think that is a good pick for them, as they did struggle a little bit in the Flamer versus Flamer battles usually. Yeah. Interestingly, from YY, they opted into banning away Flamers. It felt like they were kind of coming out on top in a lot of those exchanges, but obviously they've deemed otherwise. Maybe it wasn't as valuable as they needed to be, or maybe they just thought it wouldn't be valuable into the Shenji. And instead of banning those stalwarts, they've actually allowed them to come through for themselves, which will be really good against the Shenjis, actually.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're kind of gearing up for that battle.
Okay, the game between 2 teams is about to start soon, so let's go. YYY, the attacking team again in the map Harbor City. Let's see the lineup.
Okay, and interestingly here, we see on the side of the attackers YY, there's not a single Shenji unit actually being used. They're opting into almost entirely infantry as well.
Yeah.
As there's only a few units of those Hussars coming through. I actually kind of like this strategy. It looks like they're going to really aggressively try to push for this A point.
Yeah.
It is really, really interesting to see this actually coming into fruition, as it's not a strategy that we really ever see utilized, to go almost full infantry on this map. It's quite tricky to pull off. But maybe they have something up their sleeve. And on the defender side, we see a pretty traditional lineup with 2 Shenji, a bit of a mixed cav line, and a lot of purple infantry. Now, if YY are able to force this fight to happen a lot of the time into A, it really is going to be a hard thing for BBJT to deal with. They don't really have any kind of DPS on the melee form. They have a few units of carry with those melee units. They have the 1 unit of Banner Guard, which are obviously really useful for that. For that unit's buffs when you transfer that onto the hero. But they don't really have a whole lot of DPS to deal with the stuff like the Silidars coming out of the side of YY. So it really is a battle of where they can choose their fights to happen. Okay.
Game starts now.
We can see once again BBJT have opted into a lot of those muskets. Really, really powerful class. Mentioned a few times. Really smart for them to do so. It allows you to protect your own artillery from theirs. It forces the enemies to actually use their trebs to neutralize a lot of your artillery, which makes things a lot harder. So really, really good for stalling time in these towers. They just have to make the most of it, obviously. But something that I actually kind of would like to see out of YY here is pressuring this side gate, as we see a couple of their members now looking to try to pressure down that gate early.
Yeah.
I wouldn't at all be surprised to see a push there, or even a fake. We haven't seen it yet in the tournament. But an option for them is faking this side gate, then coming back around and climbing this ladder, especially when they have stuff like Silidars. They don't really have a response for it on the side of BBJT. So if they are actually able to fake out this push on this side gate, draw a lot of them down the staircase, and then climb up with enough units, they could use that as a funnel for trebuchets, for mortars that are placed down there, and for their superior infantry to really take aggressive fights. And a cheeky little mortar spot actually here on the right-hand side. You can see the... Obviously, it's not a real siege tower, but the terrain there that is a ruined siege tower is already set up, and that's now protecting that mortar from a lot of the musket pressure that's going to be usually used there. It's allowing him to snipe out that really popular culverin spot at the top of the stairs there on the right-hand side. So, really well played from him, finding that cheeky little spot to try to guard himself from the hell that's going to be coming down from all those bombs out of the musket class. Okay. Now with BBJT, it's going to be a battle here to see how much infantry they're really going to invest into getting rid of this second line of siege towers, but obviously they can't see what we can see. I think it's in their best interest to try to give up these walls, essentially. So maybe not invest all their artillery, but they've already sunk over half of it into it, while they've only spent 3 on the side of YY. Really efficient usage from them, as they're setting up another mortar in that secret spot there on the right-hand side. They're going to be able to almost guarantee this right-hand siege tower is going to eventually mount, which is a really important one. We've even seen in very, very old seasons where they use singular siege tower as a perfect funnel for trebuchets, as it kind of overextends a lot of the infantry from the defender side if they choose to fight it. It's really, really good trebable positions. It's a completely open area right next to it. So that's an option available to them now. But it looks like this middle siege tower is going to be allowed to mount again, which isn't surprising at all. A lot of teams identify that it's the weakest link when it comes to these siege towers. A lot of the time, it's better to leave one up and make sure that if they do come up those siege towers, they can force them into one.
Ooh, 2 siege towers down, and just like Josh said, 1 siege tower is left to be mounted.
And really clutch timing actually there on the left-hand side one. That one was very, very close to mounting. In fact, the actual setup of that additional culverin that wasn't initially going to be set up actually saved the day there, kind of. So, very clutch from that BBJT player to actually invest that artillery in getting it down. And you can see, actually, on the right-hand side, one of the YY members, Levi, actually baited a few people down as they're chasing him off the walls.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're actually going to get a few hero kills. If they get all 3 of these hero kills, it's a massive deal. That's 3 kills, essentially, for no reason. That BBJT have just given up. Really well played for the bait there. I'm not sure if that was intentional, but if it wasn't, hey, it's a happy little accident, and we'll take it. Okay, as the push is coming up the siege tower now that they know they're down 3 members, it's smart timing.
A really wise move by the attacker. Why they just really stopped the BPJT to getting any closer to the point A. So when they are having huge battle near the siege towers, they can send a few troops to start to capture the point.
This is a horrible fight for BBJT to opt into. You can see here, it's perfect trebs for YYs. They're already up the siege tower. Usually if it's one siege tower, it's a good idea to fight it. But not if your enemies already have a position where they can set up and defend. They sacrifice 1 unit of their men-at-arms, which are cheap infantry to bring, in order to score that 5 or 6 units, get a treb in there, kill that men-at-arms with the friendly fire, but also take out a lot more, as they're going to get a lot of momentum off this push. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually just go straight down this into the supply, and just leave 1 person behind to cap, as it seems like it's a great opportunity for them here to start this match. Ooh. Things are going to be a little bit trickier now for YY though, as we saw a few of them actually could have stepped on there and stopped the additional units coming out. I feel like that might have been the play, but now they're going to be able to contest with these hussars down on the low ground for BBJT's side. It's going to stall out a lot more of this momentum on the side of YY. And I'm not sure if YY actually saw it, but they also missed those Shenji. The Shenji were actually super exposed by themselves, absolutely unprotected. And just because they kind of were scared off that point, was good posturing for BBJT. Not only did they save this supply from falling instantly, they also saved that very important carry unit from going down free as well. And I think BBJT are making another mistake here. It seems like they're being a little bit too aggressive, as they're going to be funneling themselves into another Treb baits.
Yeah.
And the reason why you don't fight up here is usually just because of these Trebs are so dangerous, as you see. That wasn't even a particularly great Treb, but because of the random scatter that it sometimes has, they got a lot of damage done there for free. And it's going to be a question now of if BBJT really have the DPS to burst through these Cylindars, as they are going to be a huge carry unit up on top of these walls. Especially when they're fighting things like Royals, Loyals, or Reapers that they kind of tear through on flanks.
I think like YY, they kind of really got stuck when they are chasing down the defenders at the stairs. So they kind of like a little bit slower to capture the point A, because when they can start to capture the point A, they should just go to the point A and start capturing. And now like the capturing just got stopped by the defender. Actually, it can make a lot of change if you start to move quicker.
Yep. And I mean, it was the correct play for BBJT to chase them up that staircase. I'm just not sure if it was the right call for them to chase them all the way here.
Yeah.
As you can see, them are going to have to retreat now because they have taken a lot of unit damage up here on these walls. Like I mentioned, it's the perfect opportunity to be Treb for a defender. If you want to lose your units, it's the right place to fight. And essentially, while we're going to try to capitalize on that, they still have 21 artillery on their side. They can not only set up grape shots and ballistas here, but the trebuchets are going to be able to thin out those unit numbers. Now, if they capture A with only 1 minute left, it doesn't really matter if they take a big victory here on the unit battle, as they're already up almost 200 units here.
Ooh, kind of YY got besieged by the defender here.
Yep, and this is a great Treb. It's going to clean up a lot of those Fort Brachio and Loyals that are coming in as well. Oh my god, the amount of damage that that just did is enormous.
Quite a narrow gate and entrance for them to make a great burst through. A lot of huge damage to the YYY team.
The really cool play here coming out from the side of BBJT. They've cut off the reinforcements here with this cab, and they're actually chasing up the back of that siege tower, trying to snipe below here as YYY with their own. Really, really cool play from them here. Really aggressive. You like to see it when it comes down to only having cab left. This is an effective way to use it when you know you're defending the wall still. And honestly, with that cab flank, it seems like things really have flipped on the side of BBJT. If you have a look at the unit count now, things are looking pretty thin on the side of the attackers of YY. They have the advantage in the 3-star units and the 1-star units, but they're obviously quite considerably down in the 4-star. And things are pretty even in the 5-star, although they are down a little bit there as well. A really important factor is you can see out there on top of the wall, the Shenji are still alive and healthy as well. They're doing a lot of damage for the side of BBJT. Now, the most important thing here in this battle left is the fact that there's only one Treb is pretty dire. But the fact they have 23 artillery left, if we don't see all of those placed here for capturing A, I feel like it is going to be a really rough battle ahead for YY, as they kind of need to invest heavily into artillery here before the defender's side can really do enough damage to stall out this fight.
Oh, time is kind of limited for YYY. Seems like they will just go from the main gate because time is kind of limited, and there are a lot huge reinforcement and the forces around the walls, so it's kind of difficult for them in such a limited time.
Yeah, I like the play of chasing down this cav, but it feels like they have overcommitted to it. They're obviously trying to shut down that play from happening again. As we see the cav coming through that main gate, there's 3 units of cav now coming. 4 if you count the one that's mopping up the unit pushing that siege tower. That's an incredibly smart play for that BBJ member to go after those pushing infantry, because the fact that YY didn't push that second siege tower when they had the opportunity to is kind of biting them in the butt right now.
The YYY players kind of really got in between on the siege towers. A lot of coverage from the BPJT side is cleared out of the reinforcement, and their infantry keep doing damage and push forward, and really melted all the units from the YYY side. And only 30 seconds down to the end of the game.
Yeah, and really well fought from BBJTs, as they are going to pull out the victory here. It seems like a bit of a wasted opportunity for the side of YY. They were a bit needlessly aggressive. But they did have a really, really good opportunity there to capture that supply. But unfortunately, a couple of their members got scared off that point. Instead of stepping on and stalling out for the rest of their team, they allowed a lot of those units to come through. We saw Modal, we saw Hussars, two of the most important units they could have got out there, got out. And caused a massive stall for the defender's side. So well played to BBJT as they take that victory.
Really good game for BBJT. So let's check the MVP from BBJT side. Got like 6 kills. Okay, so seems like the BP want to show the MVP from YYY side first. So Dalongge from YYY got 8 assists and killed 70 troops in the game.
Yep, and he's done quite well for himself. Obviously, we can see he's mopped up a lot of those important purple units that we saw. We saw a lot of those Myrmillions being used on the side of BBJT. We saw a lot of those Dagger Axe Lancers, which have been a terror this series. He's made sure to mop them up, as well as just a few scattered infantry here and there that was obviously purple quality or better as well. So he's done all right for himself on the losing side.
Like Joyce sound is kind of missing. So I will continue his commentating. So BPJT MVP got 6 kills and 1 death and 10 assists in the game. It's a huge contribution, a huge damage to the team. Hi, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Maybe it's better now.
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. So and on the topic of the MVP from BBJT's side, we can see here a massive performance from him, getting over 1,300 leadership is a really impressive feat. Kills, 10 assists, just 16 KDA, which is insane. And not only that, but when you have a look at the units that he has been killing, he killed a massive amount of those stalwarts, which were really important. He killed a lot of those carry units in the form of melee infantry, the Silidars, which we were mentioning are important to die. And not only that, mopped up a ton of those blue halberdiers, which we've called one of the most cost-efficient units in the game as well. So incredible performance from him that match.
Yeah, and it's kind of a pity for YYY because at the beginning of the game, when they just get on the wall, everything goes on really smoothly for them. So they could have act more boldly and go for the supply point. But they start to capturing the point A at the same time. But also the BPJT, they did quite well and they act really boldly and just trace back to the point A, they start the capturing and successfully defend all the battles around the siege towers. So really good game by BPJT.
Yeah, and I feel like that is one that YY are going to kick themselves over quite heavily, because on the side of YY, when it came to that push, not only did they not step on the point, they had 23 artillery to use. If they set up grape shots or enough of them, we saw a couple of players, but not enough of them, setting them up on that stairs, it would have been absolutely untakeable for BBJT. Not only that, but having one person send a unit back to push that siege tower, you saw there was a huge factor. Them being funneled up one siege tower the whole game cost them the game. So a lot of mistakes there coming out of that one split second decision to be bloodthirsty to chase those kills. And unfortunately for them, BBJT were good enough to respond accordingly and punish them for the mistakes that they did make.
Yeah, so it's a huge pity for YYY. And the game score is now 2-1 now, and the next battle is gonna still on the map Harbor City, and if YYY lose the next round, they will just be the third place in this time CBL, and the BPJT will get promoted to fight against CNC. So the next round will be a really crucial battle for YYY and also BPJT. And it's kind of like really a test for the mentality for team players, because it's already like 3 matches now, all in the Harbor City, and it can be really energy consuming to have really intense fights in especially such official tournament.
Yeah, this is, like you mentioned, it's an incredibly important game here when it comes down to this matchmaking. If BBJT are able to pull through victory, obviously it doesn't go to that field battle. And as we know with field battles, they could go either way a lot of the times. The better team does not always win in field. There's a lot of randomized factors when it comes to your unit composition, when it comes to people being coordinated enough.
Yeah.
So it really is a wild card, and if YY are able to pull back this defense, which is a hard feat to do, a lot of people regard the map of Harbor City, when it's all things counted, attacker's favorite map. They're able to pull off this defense here the same way that we saw BBJT just do. It is going to drag it into that 5th game where either side could win and take away victory. So BBJT are going to look to shut them out of this game early, try to secure the victory and get onto that grand final place with CNC.
Yeah. For BBJT, just like you mentioned, the better choice is to just totally win the next round. Otherwise, field battle, they can really bring a lot of uncertainty, because everything can change in the last few seconds in the field battles. Sorry. So yeah, let's check the round 4 in the Harbor City, and the next round, YYY, they will be the defender in Harbor City. So let's see whether they can defend their victory and also the map.
Like you mentioned, going into this game, it is going to be a big mental hurdle for YY to get over. But not only that, they know that if they do win this, it's going to be a massive mental blow on the side of BBJT, because they have the thing basically secured in their eyes right now.
Yeah.
Being on the attacker side is a really good advantage when it comes to this map. So if you're able to shake them off this, get the victory back, and bring it into that 5th game, it kind of mental resets for them. So incredibly important for them to focus up here, try their best on this map, and try to make sure that they take it to the 5th round.
So let's see the unit choice from both 2 teams.
Yep, and really interestingly here from the side of YY, they're opting into 0 of the carry units. There's none of those, Shenji Grenadiers at all. And only 2, again, on the side of the attackers. Wow, I'm very, very surprised by that on the side of YY. It seems like they haven't actually seen the Grenadiers as that useful. We saw them used to massive effect there on the side of the defenders. They stalled a lot of that siege tower time. They made sure that they were knocking down huge amounts of infantry. Even their shots were nailing a lot of the heroes, which is why we saw a lot of YY, who are traditionally known as a team that wins hero fights, getting shut down because they're peppered by those guns and they were flanked from behind from those spear and pike players.
Yeah. Yeah, so I come back, and the game 4 between BPJT and the YYY.
Oh, this is interesting from the side of BBJT. You can see here a lot of culverins being placed. I count already 4 or 5, 5 culverins having been placed now, as well as 1 mortar being set up soon.
Yeah.
Their incredibly early investment in this artillery makes it seem like they really want to make sure these siege towers make it to the wall quickly.
Yeah.
I like this from them. It's something that's very, very odd. We don't see it a lot. But it's something that BBJT is starting to become known for, is these unconventional strategies that we don't see coming out of any other teams. They're trying to get an early advantage and try to snowball from there. And obviously, just a little tip for a lot of our newer players in the chat as well. You can see here something that's really important. You might be questioning why people are climbing up to the top of these siege towers, even though they're destined to fall pretty shortly. The reason why a lot of teams do this on the side of BBJT and also YY and any of the top teams really, is if you're in your ranked games or even your siege matches trying to practice, when you play on this map, it's really important for you to use your trebuchets, not necessarily to get a lot of damage done usually on this map, but to shut down the enemy artillery, making sure that your siege towers can actually make it to the walls.
Yeah.
So they'll jump up there, they'll get better angles to aim that trebuchets, and that's the main reason why they do it. Not only that, but it helps them scout what kind of unit composition the enemy is actually bringing on the first wave.
Yeah, and I like the point you mentioned that a lot of high-ranked team players, they always like climb up the siege towers and you try to use the trebuchets at the early stage of the game and destroying all the artillery on the walls, just to buy them a little bit time to in the whole battle. And we see a lot of like CNC players doing it in the all siege battles when it comes to like pushing forward the siege tower.
Yep, not only that, but if you are playing a ranged character, using that vantage position, especially for longbow players, you see it a lot in pesky ranked games. I know it's my least favorite thing to verse ever, but when they're up on top of those siege towers, obviously they can't be reached by anybody just about.
Yeah.
So they're able to just kind of blink away at units, chip them down, kill a few of them off, and it's really, really effective. But also on the defender side, you have opportunities for that. You see on the side of the left side open door, there's actually a platform that rests right above it. You can actually jump down from that wall onto the lower wall and use that, but I've only seen that utilized so far from the CNC longbow players, as it is quite a risky position to actually use. If you're able to get knocked off, it's pretty hard to get back up there. But you're able to do an insane amount of damage because they can't hide from you at that position anymore. They can't hide behind that wall like they usually do from the upper wall. Now, really good play from BBJT. They're making sure they're trebbing really heavily on this right side because they're trying to make sure that this right side siege tower goes up early, and they're going to effectively do that, it looks like. With the side of YY having 8 more artillery, it doesn't look like they're choosing to invest heavily to actually protect this siege tower from breaching the walls. Now, something I'm not too sure on why, as we see, for the side of YY, actually on that staircase, you can see there's one unit of the, I believe that's the woodcutters, or the lumberjacks as they're affectionately known. I'm assuming that's just because we have a double golden cav player that doesn't have much else to bring to the walls. But having that one unit there obviously does mean that their defense is going to be a little bit weaker here. It's going to be used just to buy a bit of time for the more important units to get into position, I'd assume. As they're just kind of posturing this staircase. Now, this is the usual place that you'll see a lot of units hiding on. Not only does it protect you from a lot of the artillery fire and also trebuchet fire, but it allows you to move into position to respond if a main gate push or a side gate push does happen. It's smart play to keep your units there. We see it a lot of the times from the more experienced teams on this map in particular, because they know that it is really risky if you're up on top of this wall and they do push the lower gate. It's incredibly hard to respond in time. So having your units already there, especially for the slower units like the Medal and stuff like that, is a really important factor.
And for still when the time is still like over 7 minutes and 7.5 minutes, the tech side still like have 21 artillery at this moment. They still got a lot of forces to do the following attacks.
Yep, and an important factor here is that they do have a lot more of that purple infantry on the side of YY. They do have the ability to cost trade more efficiently, as they've dodged this trap really well, honestly. It's actually catching a few of the heroes of the BBJT side, and they might be able to turn around and defend the staircase as we see them turning now and actually picking off some of these heroes. It's great play.
Yep.
Now, this is the thing that I actually scrutinized BBJT for last time, as I said that they should take this part of the stairs but not push up over the top of it where they can actually trebbed. Right now, we see YY actually have a pretty good position as they're trying to hold on to this staircase.
Yeah.
Because they're just not able to actually be trebbed here. It's the most cost-efficient trades they really can get. And something I
Awesome.
didn't actually spot till just now as well is great play from those Hussars. They sallied out and they're killing a lot of those Claymores.
Yeah.
They're going to go into the back and pressure as we see the Dual Blades capture that supply from behind to use it to shut down that push on the main gate.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of cheeky mischief from that Dual Blades player again. After using that Hussar charge, he's opted to swap to his Peasant unit, making sure that his Hussars can obviously make it out there as they've retreated off the field, and he's using that unit as essentially the replacement because he knew that they were going to turn around and deal with him there. So smart play on his behalf, rather than risking it trying to get that unit back through the gate safely. Okay. Now, something out of YY that does give them a bit of a beam of hope here as well, as we have seen a lot of the time, their artillery placement is pretty much flawless for defending this close supply behind A. You can see they place it very, very close to the wall, obviously well rehearsed to defend this.
Yeah.
But we see on the side
Ooh.
of BBJT, they've completely gone the other side of the gate, circumventing that essentially. Yeah. Now, this was the strategy that they obviously saw YY get exploited by CNC, and it seems like they're trying to opt into it both games.
Yeah.
They beat them last game with it as well. So, well, sorry, not last game, but the previous game before that. And it's going to be interesting to see if YY have a plan now to adjust. They got a few more Hussars out and stuff like that, which are going to be really, really important for these fights. Having the counter cav charges is going to be a huge factor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a dangerous game for YY right now, as this is a hard push to defend. It's really, really important for them to defend it in choke points where they're not going to get heavily trebbed as well. And it seems like YY isn't taking the bait this time. They're aware of the fact that BBJT double backed last time to punish their rotations being not perfect enough, essentially. And now they are moving more as a cohesive unit. We see a spear unit in the back, just picking off a few of those Medal, which is a fantastic pick. It's actually got Fenrir pack that are going to trade incredibly well into those Medal. Everyone that they kill is worth about 3 of those Fenrir, so very, very worthwhile trade for him, as he might even snipe the hero if he's lucky. Yeah, but I mean, right now, YY took a good trade there. They might even get a few heroes here if they're not caught up too much. But it seems like they are actually going to get caught, as there's a lot of cavalry coming through this gap. Do they have pikes in position? It doesn't seem like so yet. They've just got the blue halberds there. Obviously, they're trying to scare away those cav. Okay. Now, BBGAT is in a really, really good position with their artillery as well. 16 still yet to be placed. As you can see, they're going to be able to place them really, really close to the front lines here, knowing that YY can't sally out, and they're going to be able to shell this defensive position, force YY back onto the home point. And now it's a game of if they can punish these retreating units enough.
And they're doing quite nicely in keep pushing forward at the the defender side, and they get just steps closer to the final base, and they are trying to attack from 2 directions, kind of like doing a lot of distraction to the defender team.
Yeah, really well done from them. Essentially, what usually happens on this map is you see the attackers having to deploy artillery up on top of the wall and then slowly inch their way forward. What BBJT have identified is there's a bit of a flaw in YY's playstyle, where if they come through that side gate, YY either forces a fight where they can win on BBJT's side, or if they give up enough space, then BBJT can kind of skip 2 or 3 of those artillery placements and start placing their offensive artillery really close to where the final base is. You can see here already the artillery they placed earlier is already able to shell that final point, so they're getting massive value out of it.
Ooh, a nice charge by those cavalries and already step on the final base.
Yeah, and while we see the side of BBJT is favoured, as obviously the unit count is very heavily in their favour, this is a really risky fight that they've chosen to fight over the supply for. It's essentially a bit of a risk I feel like they didn't need. I feel like they will probably emerge victorious out of that push, but they had essentially a guaranteed victory, it feels like, with that artillery already placed.
Yeah.
You can see here the cavalry of BBJT is absolutely just run through YY, as there is a bit of a numerical advantage, but there is a unit of hussars coming in. We're going to be able to see how much damage they get done here. Not a whole lot, as a lot of them ended up into the wall, unfortunately.
Yeah. And you can see that BPJT is still good at the hero killing, only 4 alive heroes from YY side. Most of them are around the final base. But you know, when the reinforcement from BPJT coming for the final base, it can be really difficult for the defender to keep and insist on the final base.
Yep. And you can see here a smart Treb as well. That Treb won't get a lot of damage done, but what it does do is it means that YY can't actually effectively push through. It's buying a lot of time for them actually to set up those halberds and make sure that if YY does come to try to come through there, as they are now, they're taking a huge amount of damage from those braced pikes.
Yep.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Yeah, they just, you know, the BPJT, they just really stop the defenders at the respawn point and really buy the time for their team members to start to capturing the final base.
Yeah, YY have got back this supply now, but they don't really have the units to pull out of it, unfortunately. As you're going to see, a lot of them are just going to opt into trying to stall out this final point. Seems like a bit of a desperate last-pitch effort.
In the park. A walk in the park.
Seems like the BPJT, they are totally in the upper hand for around the final base. The reinforcement make it hard time to get back to the final base, but still kind of got melted by units on the ground at this moment.
And I mean, as we can see here on the right-hand side of the map as well, they still even have the unit of Shenji. So BBJT were in a fantastic position to win that game from start to finish, it really feels like.
Yeah, congrats to BBJT. They win the 4th round and got promoted to the next stage. So let's see the MVP from BBJT. Got 3 kills. Only 1 death and 10 assists, and killed a lot of over 100 troops in the game. You can see a lot of like Winged Hussars and Siladas and Halberdiers got nailed down by this hero.
Yeah, you can see even the second member of their team also had a very similar performance, being 5 kills, 0 deaths, 12 assists, and 103. Only about 100 down on those leadership count, both of them having a pretty stellar performance on their sides. Obviously identifying a pretty big flaw in YY's playstyle on this map specifically. I don't think this is a flaw they have on any other map except for Harbor, but they've exploited it to perfection. The first match they found a fight where they obviously won pretty heavy-handedly, and in the second fight they were able to not have that fight happen, but they used the space that they were allowed from that rotation to really aggressively set up artillery that essentially guaranteed them the win there. So really smart play from BBJT.
Yeah, especially, you know, they try to make through from the left side gate and get inside of the city. And every step they make is just really steady and just a really nice and clever way to, you know, start capturing the final base. So congrats to BBJT. They win today's game at 3-1. And you know, still for YYY, they the team is really like strong and veteran. So today's game is kind of really close and intense, like Josh said. And both two teams, they all kind of like had the chance to win every match. So we can't really tell the results of the game, especially a lot of ranged units got banned, and we see a lot of like melee infantry fights. So yeah, today's game is really like amazing and fantastic. So Josh and we got a chance to witness the BPJT. They got knocked out by CNC, and again they win themselves the chance to fight against the CNC again tomorrow. So yeah, Josh, I guess we and our audience got the chance to like see the grand final of this time CBL tomorrow. So thank you, Josh, for joining today's stream. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure to join, especially when I get to see teams of this caliber battling it out. Obviously, both trying their hardest to secure that grand finals place. It's always a joy to watch.
Yeah, and we all like learned a lot of statics and lessons from CBL teams, players, and the performance. So thank you guys for joining today's stream, and thank you, Josh. So I guess we will see you in tomorrow. Yeah, and make sure to check the like grand finals of this time CBL. So see you. Bye bye.
See you then.
Bye bye, Josh. Have a good rest.
You also. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.